Alright, so I had my mic off for that, so you guys missed everything that I was saying. Pretty much I'm going to be going through a YouTube video today, explaining, it's not my own video. We're going to go through and actually kind of analyze these cocktails as they go through them. My family actually used to work in a bar. It didn't really focus on fancy cocktails, so that was part of the bar that I always got to miss out on. Was just a neat, interesting how to make it cocktails. Um, I tend to like those. Some people call them fruit drinks. I like anything that has like fruit in it or sweet, and I've just always have. The sweeter the better, in my opinion. So my taste might be a little different than your guys's. I like a sweet and sour uh, deal. I like a lot of ciders, so there might be some old fashions in here that probably won't catch my taste buds as much. But I don't mind with things like whiskeys. Um, Different types of good rums, not like the cheap Captain Morgan rums. I actually don't care for that. But certain rums will tickle my fancy every now and then. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, interesting.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm a bartender at Dutch Kills in New York City, and today I'm going to show you how to mix every cocktail. And by every cocktail, we mean not every cocktail, because that would be insane. Today we're going to focus on classic cocktails. These are the drinks from the 19th and early 20th century that are still popular today. These are the basic tools I use when I'm mixing drinks. Boston shaker. I use them because it gives me a little bit more control. They're easier to open, and you get a frothier drink at the end. Strainers. This is a Hawthorne strainer. This is a julep strainer. This is a fine mesh strainer. We like to use it for straining out finer shards of ice so you get a really nice, smooth shaken cocktail at the end. Bar spoon.
Interesting.
You need these for stirring your stirred drinks. Also, the bar spoon itself is a measurement for small portions. Jiggers, the bartender's measuring cup. This is your muddler, necessary for mashing to get essential oils out or to dissolve sugar into a drink like an old-fashioned. I can't stress this enough. Good ice is extremely important for making a good cocktail. You can have great quality alcohol, beautiful fresh juices, and then you put a piece of smelly ice from your freezer into a drink, and it's just going to taste like your freezer. So what I recommend is to pick up a bag of ice from a grocery store before you're making drinks, to make nicer ice in a silicone mold at home. Or if you live in a major city, there's an ice company in most places that'll be happy to furnish you with big dense cubes like this.
Also with ice, you can.
To make an
I'm
old
just gonna
fashioned, we're going
pause
to build
this right
it
here.
in the glass. First we start.
So with ice, there's actually certain methods that you can use to freeze it so it comes out clear like that. A lot of people don't know about it, so it's kind of something I like to do to make my ice. You can also make spheres that way, and there's certain um, different ways to like melt your ice and then refreeze it so it gets a nice crystal clear consistency through it, and it also stays colder a lot longer because you don't have all those air gaps and um, different types of gaps that are really causing that discoloration. So it's kind of neat. I really really glad he brought up ice when how to make a cocktail because that's something I think a lot of people overlook. So
With a white sugar cube, 3 to 4 good dashes of bitters, just a small drop of soda water to help the bitters and sugar cube dissolve when we muddle it.
I always
Whiskey.
wanted to
Could
try
be
a
bourbon or rye. I think the most traditional is bourbon, and it's what I'm using for this. Ice. For an old fashioned, I like to use as big of a piece as ice as possible to fit in the glass, reduce the surface area between the ice and the rest of the drink, so we're slowing down the melting of the ice, and we can hold on to our drink for longer. And lower that in
interesting.
with the bar spoon so we don't splash everywhere. You don't really want to overstir an old fashioned. And traditionally this gets the rabbit ears garnish, which is a orange and lemon twist. So I like
Take out
to
that white part at the
express
top
all
here.
the essential oils out
It's
of that
bugging me.
twist and crisscross. This is the Old Fashioned, the classic of classic
It's like the
cocktails.
biggest
When the
garnish
word
I've ever
cocktail
seen
first
in an
came
old
about,
fashioned.
It was really just defined as spirit with water, sugar, and bitters, and those are the primary ingredients in the drink. Manhattan. First thing you'll need is a chilled pint glass. Bitters in. 1 ounce sweet vermouth to 2 ounces rye whiskey. And
I
as
don't really
always,
know
we're
what
adding
vermouth
all of
is.
our spirits before ice, starting with the least expensive ingredient first. You can use any blunt object to crack ice. I'm using the back of a steel muddler in this case. For great control, you can even just use a tablespoon from your kitchen. And now we stir. This
Or
actually
just
will take a
make
second.
smaller ice.
You can sing a song in your head, something I like to do. A quick taste and temperature check. It's getting cold.
If you're good at
Coupe.
what you're
Again,
doing, you know what
every
it tastes
ingredient
like.
should be as cold as possible to keep your drink as cold as long as possible. This is a Luxardo cherry. The kind of bright red maraschino cherries you see in a lot of bars were based on this. Really, really tasty. Highly recommend finding them if you can.
Oh,
For
I gotta
stir
find
drinks,
those.
I'll use
I
a
love
julep
maraschino
strainer because
cherries.
it fits better into the pint glass. This is Manhattan. Legend has it, it was developed at the famous Manhattan Club in the 1870s. It's the probably second most popular cocktail right after the Old Fashioned, still to this day. Whiskey sour. To make a whiskey sour, we need fresh lemon juice. It's probably the single quickest, easiest thing you can do to improve the quality of your drinks is using fresh juice whenever possible. The simple syrup is equal parts regular white sugar and water dissolved, and 2 ounces of whiskey. So what makes this whiskey sour traditional is the addition of egg white for a foamy top.
Ew.
So for any drink containing an egg white, the first step is a
Why
dry
would you
shake
do that?
before we actually get to shaking the drink with ice. This is called the dry shake because it doesn't have any ice in it. This is usually when you talk to your customers and then they tell you their problems. All right.
Ugh.
So our first step is complete. You can see the egg white is already nice and frothy. So now we'll add our ice carefully into the shaken drink. Softer shakes.
How don't you
Right
get
now I'm cooling down
salmonella
the
from
temperature
that?
in the
I always
shaker,
think it's funny when
and
people
it's
put
creating
raw
a better
eggs
seal
into
between the
things.
two cans. Now that I
Like,
feel
does
the
the
shaker
alcohol
is cool
just
enough, I can
neutralize it?
create an airtight seal in the Boston shaker. And really go for it.
Oh, he's really going for it. Shake that.
Use a large chilled coupe for this. This is the Hawthorne strainer, which fits this kind of shaker best. And as a garnish, do a little decoration with our Angostura bitters. I'm drawing a
And-
line
and
of
make
the
a
bitters,
mess all
to make
over
a nice
the-
little feathered pattern.
Fuck's sake.
And this is your traditional whiskey sour. I love whiskey sours. I also love making them for people that have never tried them before because people aren't always into the idea of egg whites at first. And then when you hand one to them, they'll taste that it's just ethereal and fluffy and not eggy at all.
Okay.
Sazerac.
I'd be interested to try that.
Start off with a chilled glass shaker, white sugar cube. We're going to douse this sugar cube with a good amount of Peychaud's bitters, which is the only bitters that makes us a traditional Sazerac. And as we do whenever we have to dissolve
Never
a sugar
heard of
cube,
that
we
before.
add just a little drop of soda water, not a lot. And now we muddle.
You get that sugar all mixed up.
Don't be afraid to really go for it because you do want your sugar to be dissolved. Take out your aggression. 2
This
ounces
dude
of rye,
has so much for
and crack
tools.
away.
He's got a stainless steel muddler, a wooden muddler,
Spoon all the way to the bottom.
got the fancy spoon.
So while the Sazerac sits on ice, we're going
Wonder what
to
the
dip
twisted
our glass in
handle's for
absinthe
on the
rinse.
spoon.
We like to put absinthe into one of these atomizer bottles. So the traditional garnish for Sazerac is a lemon twist. Now some people like to serve the lemon with the drink. Some people just like to express the essential oils from the lemon and discard the lemon. I don't want to make anyone mad, so what we do at the bar is put the lemon twist on the inside of the rim. That way people have the option of kind of having the twist or not.
And
Sazerac is especially
diplomatic
one of the
lemon
first
twist.
cocktails that used
Love it.
absinthe as a aromatic, just to lend a last bit of almost seasoning to a drink. Whiskey fix. We're going to start with equal parts fresh lemon juice and simple syrup, 2 ounces of whiskey. Bourbon or rye works well for this. I'm using bourbon. We're just going to do what we call a whip on this drink, which is just shaking with a small piece of ice.
interesting.
And with this, we're just trying to lightly chill down the drink, basically until the piece of ice dissolves. Chilled double rocks glass. For
Ooh,
this, we're going to use crushed ice.
that looks
And
creamy.
I recommend going to a fast food restaurant or a fish market and begging them to give you their crushed ice because it's the best for this. Steel straw. I use steel straws because metal straws are good for the environment, but even more so, it's also really good for conducting the cold temperature of the drink. The fix gets
Yeah,
two
fuck the
garnishes,
environment.
a lemon wedge,
Needs to
and
keep the
a
drink
Luxardo
cold.
cherry.
Like,
And here
what
you
the
are,
fuck
your
is this
classic
dude's
whiskey fix.
priorities?
A fix is any cocktail that consists of lemon juice, simple syrup, and a spirit. You can also muddle fresh fruit into a fix for seasonality. Who
so
doesn't
weird.
love seasons? Boulevardier. As always, we're going to start off with our least expensive ingredients first. We have our sweet vermouth, Campari, which is a must for a Boulevardier, and bourbon. And give this guy a good stir. And we'll take a chilled coupe. Boulevardier can also be served on the rocks, but straight up is standard. And the traditional garnish, an orange twist. This is one of my favorite cocktails, the Boulevardier, which is often thought of as a cousin to the classic Negroni. So they both share sweet vermouth and Campari as two of the three base ingredients. With a Boulevardier, it's whiskey instead of gin.
Interesting.
Presbyterian.
Ooh,
The Presbyterian is my favorite in a category of drinks called a buck, which is a lime juice ginger spirit drink. So Moscow Mule, Kentucky Mule, all examples of bucks. So to start, ½ ounce of lime juice, fresh. And for maximum ginger flavor, we like to use fresh ginger juice. Presbyterian is made with rye.
gross.
We're going to whip shake this with a small piece of ice, just to get the base mixture chilled down slightly.
Wonder what the fuck ginger
I like
juice
to
is.
add the first bit of soda water into the can. That way we get a slight bit of carbonation that helps mix the soda into the drink as you're pouring it out. And my secret weapon once again, big ice. And top with more soda water. And I like to top these with a little crystallized ginger candy, just so it gives people a little hint of what they're about to drink. This is a Presbyterian, the platonic ideal of a whiskey ginger.
I don't care for that.
Use a ½ ounce of grenadine for this. Grenadine is probably
Love
my
me some
favorite cocktail
grenadine.
syrup. It's made from
Mine too.
concentrated, fresh pomegranate juice, sweetened with sugar. Adding to that,
That I
an
didn't
ounce
know.
of fresh squeezed grapefruit juice, and 2 ounces of rye. What I
I
love
thought
about
it's from
Blinker is that
cherries.
there aren't that many citrusy, refreshing drinks that people think about when they think about rye whiskey, and this is really one of those. One big rock for shaking.
God, that's gotta be clunky in
Hawthorne
there.
strainer.
Never
This
seen
is
a
the
big
Blinker,
one
a
used for
shaken
shaking.
rye cocktail. Originated probably around the mid to late 1940s. Appears in one of the great cocktail books of all time, The Fine Art of Mixing Drinks. Improved whiskey cocktail. Start off with Peychaud's bitters and just a bar spoon of absinthe, a ½ ounce of Luxardo maraschino. This was made available in America in the 19th century and became a very popular sweetener as an alternative to sugar, hence the improved whiskey cocktail, as opposed to an old-fashioned which just used white sugar. And this drink gets a lot of rye. Big rock.
Interesting.
I'm trying to just get a little bit of ice down so that it fits in the tapered bottom of the glass. And just like with the old-fashioned, you don't need to overstir this drink. And a nice lemon
Looks
twist
pretty
of this.
watery.
This is the improved whiskey cocktail. This whiskey cocktail thinks it's better than other whiskey cocktails, and it's right. Monte Carlo. We'll start with Angostura bitters, as so many old-fashioned variations do. Instead of sugar, this gets a herbal and slightly sweet.
A lot of these
kick
bitters
from
you can find at
Benedictine
Walmart
liqueur.
now.
This is a drink bartenders love to make because it has 3 ingredients in it, and it's very fast and very good. This is rye whiskey. Big rock in glass, and we'll give this a judicious stir. So the herbal qualities of the Benedictine go really nicely with a lemon twist. One of the most popular riffs on an old-fashioned, the delightful Monte Carlo. Named after a brave man named
I'm not a big
Carlo,
fan of the
climbed
lemon
mountain.
wedges he like
I'm
throws in
kidding, it's
there.
named after the city of Monte Carlo. Mint julep. First things first, we need a lot of mint for a mint julep. So what I do is use the
Yeah.
bottom leaves off of a sprig of mint.
Things that don't
save the
belong
top for
together.
garnish, and I'm
Mint
going to put about maybe
and
15 or
drinking.
16 nice fresh mint leaves into the bottom of the glass. So the mint julep gets sweetened with a little bit of sugar to start the abrasion process going to get those mint oils out, and then a little bit of simple syrup to provide the rest of the necessary sweetness. So I'm using the muddler here. I don't want to over muddle the drink either, but just get it crushed up enough. And while I'm doing this, I'm also spreading the mint around the inside of the glass as well. 2.5 ounces of bourbon, if you please. I'm gonna fill this julep tin up about 2/3 of the way with crushed ice. So we're gonna swizzle the drink, which is just to lightly combine a drink on crushed ice.
Yeah, combine that drink.
Gets that crushed ice a little further down into the glass, making room for more.
Swizzled.
Add our straw in now.
Okay, that's what the twisty handle's for.
And we take the prettiest looking mint we have. I like to lightly tap the mint against my hand to just get the aromas coming out of the mint leaves. And give a nice mint flourish. Though I don't know when this tradition began, it is a really nice addition to a mint julep to finish it off with a slight drizzle of Jamaican rum. And there's your mint julep, the official cocktail of the Kentucky Derby. Legally speaking, if you say the phrase, I
gotta say this, Jamaican rum, for those who haven't tried it, especially like if it's like fruit flavored one, I recommend if you ever find a bottle of Jamaican rum, buy it. It is so good. They have a different way of making their rum, and I tried like their rum cakes, and it's just delicious. I've tried making my own rum cake with like different types of rum here, but it wasn't as good. And I think it's because I'm not using the Jamaican rum. I think that's what really makes it great.
Claire, you're supposed to be holding a mint julep. Martini. Chilled pint glass. More than anything else, you want a cold martini. The standard martini spec is 1 ounce vermouth to 2 ounces gin. I'd like to go with a London dry gin. And now we're adding some dense ice all the way up to the top with ice.
I just don't
Chilled coupe glass.
find the appeal in a martini.
Julep strainer, crystal clear and very cold. There are 2 common garnishes for a martini. It could either be olives or a lemon twist. This is a gin martini with a twist.
For sure.
Obviously one of the most beloved classic drinks of
I
all
love
time,
me some olives,
and
though.
one of the ones that spawn the most variations. This one is the standard. Martinez. Again, a chilled pint glass.
What is this?
Start off with orange bitters. So traditionally this drink calls for equal parts sweet vermouth and Old Tom gin, and you'll notice that it is not clear like most gin. That's because either the gin has been aged in a barrel or has had malt added to it. And to that, some nice cracked ice. There are fights over how to garnish this drink. In this case, the fight is lemon or orange twist. Go lemon. This is the Martinez. It's often thought of as the predecessor to the martini. Biggest difference between the two is that this is made with sweet vermouth instead of dry vermouth.
Interesting.
Gimlets were traditionally made with Rose's lime juice, but we like them with fresh lime juice these days. 3/4 ounces of simple syrup, and our standard 2 ounces of gin. This one has a bit more of a peppery, citrusy finish to it. We've got our chilled coupe and a nice big rock for shaking. I'll use 2 strainers, both the Hawthorne strainer and a fine mesh strainer to get those last bits of ice. And that is a gimlet. One of the oldest, simplest, and most refreshing gin cocktails.
Looks good.
Gin Ricky. 3
Got a lot
very
of gin
simple, fresh
cocktails
ingredients,
now.
just gin, simple syrup, and lime juice. So a Ricky is essentially a gimlet, but with soda added, served on ice. And there's your Gin Ricky. It's just a simple, refreshing, fizzy gin cocktail. Negroni. Classic Negroni is just equal parts sweet vermouth from Turin, if at all possible, London dry gin, and Campari. Nice large rock.
Never heard
Orange
of,
twist for this guy.
I've never tried vermouth,
Classic
and I've
Italian
never heard
cocktail,
of
one of the most
Campari or
refreshing
whatever
things
you
you
just
could possibly
used.
drink. Corpse Survivor number 2. It's an equal parts drink. Equal parts lemon, triple sec, Lillet Blanc, and gin.
That's only Blanc.
We'll give
Looks
our
good.
chilled coupe a nice rinse of absinthe and finish that off with a generous lemon twist. This is the Corpse Survivor number 2, a classic refreshing gin drink invented by Harry Craddock at the Savoy Hotel in London. Aviation number 1.
That looks
As
good.
for why it's the number 1, there's also a number 2, which doesn't contain the trademark ingredient of creme de violette. Creme de violette is a liqueur made from the violet flower, but it isn't always available, and when it became scarce, the number 2 was invented. Gin, echoing the presence of maraschino liqueur in the drink, we're also adding a cherry to the bottom. The weird and wonderful aviation number 1. If you ever see creme de violette in someone's bar and wonder what it's used for, this is it. Tom Collins. We use equal parts lemon and sugar, 2 ounces of our Old Tom gin.
Tom Collins.
And we whip a little bit of soda into the can. And the classic garnish is a Luxardo cherry and a beautiful orange wedge. This is a Tom Collins, similar to a Gin Ricky, except this is made with lemon juice instead of lime.
I'd drink
Ramos
it.
Gin Fizz. For this, our citrus is a split base of lemon juice and lime. And for added complexity, we also use a couple of drops of orange flower water.
Yeah.
Simple syrup. So
Orange
what makes a Ramos
flower
Gin
water?
Fizz special is the meringue that forms from this drink. And what makes the meringue extra fluffy as opposed to other egg white drinks is the addition of heavy cream. 2 ounces of our gin, egg white for a foamy top. And it gets a particularly hard dry shake because we're really starting that meringue right now. I'm going to be doing this for a while, so let's talk more about the Ramos Gin Fizz. It required so much work that initially this used to be a multi-person operation where one waiter would then hand this drink to another waiter and then hand this drink to another waiter as they were going along.
Interesting.
All right, well this is great. We already have the beginning of our meringue forming down here. Now, carefully drop our nice big shaking rock. So you can see that our nice meringue is starting to form. We're gonna stick it into the freezer and let that set. And we're back solidified a little bit from sitting in the freezer. If you're a good bartender, you stick your straw in and it should not move. I guess I'm a good bartender. Take the fizziest
That's pretty good.
seltzer you possibly can and pour it down the straw. And that is your Ramos Gin Fizz. Pretty much universally agreed upon as the hardest, most work-intensive drink to make from the great city of New Orleans. Bramble.
Orleans
Bramble
like to
is a
overcomplicate
variation
things.
on the fix. So it's a crushed ice drink with lemon and sugar and spirit. And before we add the spirit in, so there isn't too much liquid in the glass, we're gonna muddle some berries in there right now.
Yeah,
and
muddle
just try
those
to make sure that you
berries.
crush each one. Now we can add our 2 ounce pour of gin. We're going to give this just a little dry shake to incorporate that gin straight into a chilled double rocks glass. So nice. We're gonna fill this up about 2/3 of the way with crushed ice so they know what we're drinking. This is a Bramble, a dangerously easy to drink gin number with citrus and fresh fruit. 20th century. This drink is a weird one and I like it. It has lemon and chocolate in it and it is very good. Trust me. Creme de cacao. If you can spring a few extra dollars for the good stuff on this, it makes a huge difference and a little goes a long way. You'll have this forever. Using Coca Americano, which is aromatized fortified wine. Yeah, just your classic lemon, wine, chocolate gin cocktail. But for some reason, it really works. Because we use both creme de cacao and this fortified wine, this gets less than the usual 2 ounce pour of gin. It only gets 1.5. And with this drink, we also finish it with a lemon twist, although most bars like to express the oils out of this lemon twist and then discard it. This is a 20th century, a uniquely flavored lemony chocolatey gin drink invented in 1930, which is in the 20th century. Bee's Knees. I love the Bee's Knees because it's sweetened with honey instead of sugar, and it actually is the drink I make the most for friends when I'm scrounging around their kitchen looking for ingredients I can use for a cocktail. I use a honey syrup, which is really just honey that's slightly thinned out with a little bit of hot water, making it easier to pour. And 2 ounces of gin. This is the Bee's Knees. One of the things I love about honey cocktails is that it creates a really nice foam on the top. Last
that
word.
looks tasty.
So in this case, we're using equal parts fresh lime juice, maraschino liqueur, gin, and green chartreuse, which is very strong stuff. So this drink is one of those bartender drinks that bartenders really love. I think the last word is disgusting. Everybody else loves this drink but me. I'm the crazy one. And it's my job to please. What a great order.
I don't know, it seems like
Nice
him and
drink.
Mai's tastes are pretty
And garnish
similar.
it with a cherry. The delicious.
Especially the fact
most
that he
people,
puts
last
cherries
word.
and lemons and everything.
Vodka martini. A standard martini always calls for dry vermouth and either gin or vodka. Modern tastes for vodka martinis usually mean as dry as possible. I'm going to go with just a drop, although often it could be none at all. And because the cocktail is usually about 3 ounces in total, with a vodka martini you'll usually get a slightly heavier pour than the usual 2 ounces.
Pour it
Of course, the
down,
most
bud.
popular variation of the vodka martini would be the dirty martini, which involves olive brine added into it, which is great if you like seawater. I'm gonna give this guy a good stir.
Which is
This should
great if
really
you
feel
like
pretty much
seawater.
frozen. As with any vodka martini, it could
That means
be
it's not
served with
great.
either olives or a lemon twist. This is
Yeah,
a
put that
vodka
sweet
martini.
stuff in there.
I feel like I'm at a business power lunch just looking at it. Moscow Mule.
Mmm.
So just like other drinks in the Buck family, I'll have lime juice and our fresh ginger syrup, and 2 ounces of vodka. Normally, this is when you would take out the Moscow Mule mug, but I am going to not use the mug for this because
Well, what the
in my
fuck do you
mind,
have the
it leads
mug
to
for?
Just a kind of diluted drink. So I'm going to make this the way that I make all my other tall
So
coffee
dumb.
drinks. In a tall glass with a nice big piece of ice so that you can enjoy the thing for a while. Add soda.
So you can have this big ice chunk hit your face every time you want to fucking chug the
That's a
bottom
Moscow
of it.
Mule. Bonus! If you float bitters on top of a Moscow Mule, that is now a headless horseman. And it is
Huh.
delicious. Vesper. I'm going to go with our cookie Americano. The original recipe called for a product called Quina Lele, but it's not made anymore, and this is kind of the closest thing that we've got. Vodka and gin.
Damn, it's crazy how often like they have to swap
Vesper
out.
was James Bond's girlfriend. Spoiler alert, things didn't end well for Vesper. And unlike martinis where there's an option between olives and lemons, there is no debate here, this gets a lemon. This is the Vesper, famously invented by Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond. James Bond got me into bartending, so this drink has a little extra meaning for me.
That's a nice
Margarita.
little tidbit he added.
Obviously, margarita is one of the most popular cocktails in the world. There are so many different ways that it can be made. It can be shaken, it can be served down on the rocks, straight up. So for me, it's just lime juice, triple sec, and silver tequila, the unaged variety of tequila. And as for glassware, I'm going to rim this glass. One big rock. Margarita is probably one of the most popular drinks in the world. It is the national drink of Mexico. I like mine with rocks and salt. Paloma.
I like mine
So
blended.
this drink is made with tequila and grapefruit
With
soda,
wheat
but
sugar.
we're gonna do ours with fresh grapefruit and lime juice. So this is my spin on a drink that's usually made with a prepackaged drink. Liquid sugar, 2 ounces of tequila. Shake that guy on our cracked ice. Add a little soda to that can. I add a tiny bit of salt to the top, which will kind of season that drink. And for a welcome dose of bitterness, a long grapefruit twist. This is a Paloma. Tequila, grapefruit, easy to drink, a lot of them. Mexican Firing Squad Special.
Okay.
Equal parts lime and grenadine, and a few healthy dashes of Angostura forms the flavor base for this. Standard 2 ounces of tequila. This drink has a kind of politically incorrect sounding name, but it was invented in Mexico, so we're going with it. Soda in the can,
I mean, that's their name. I think it's a cool name.
and an orange twist to run the length of the glass. This is a Mexican Firing Squad Special. Daiquiri.
I want to
Daiquiri
know
couldn't
what
be
the
simpler.
name of the
Just
story
3
is behind
ingredients:
the
lime
name.
juice, simple syrup, 2 ounces of white rum. We're gonna double strain this guy for clarity. This is a daiquiri, or a daiquiri natural, just rum, lime, and sugar. It's pretty much holy to bartenders.
You gotta add that pina colada mix
Hemingway
in there.
daiquiri.
Oh, he's making different ones.
Many daiquiri
All right.
variations, this is one of the more popular ones that stood the test of time. It is sweetened with maraschino liqueur and also has the addition of grapefruit juice.
What is maraschino?
A Hemingway daiquiri. Hemingway was famous for not liking sugar in his drinks, so this one is named after him for the lack of sugar.
Ooh.
Dark and stormy. We're using our standard buck spec of lime juice and fresh ginger syrup. Bermuda rum. This is a dark and stormy. I just really like this drink. The dark and stormy is the national drink of Bermuda, and it is always made with Gosling's rum. If it ain't Gosling's, it ain't dark and stormy. Mai Tai. Here's how you make a Mai Tai. This is orgeat. It's a almond-scented syrup used in a variety of tiki drinks. A little goes a long way here. Dry curacao, which is one of many different kinds of orange liqueurs used in classic cocktails. Rum agricole, which is made from fermented cane syrup and has a really nice funkiness to it. We're just giving this a quick whip.
Funkiness.
Release those aromas. I like putting that mint right next to the straw so that when you bring it to your mouth, you get the aroma coming right at you. And we finish this off with
kind of neat
a
little
drizzle
crack
of our strong, funky Jamaican rum. This is a Mai Tai,
really makes it
the
taste
sexy
better, though.
granddad of all tiki drinks. Mojito.
Mojito.
When making a mojito, we're going to need a lot of fresh mint. We have a nice chunky Demerara sugar cube here. And before we add the spirit, just so there isn't too much liquid in the shaker, we muddle. 2 ounces of silver rum. Really not trying to add a lot of froth or anything to the drink right now, just to get it combined and into a chilled double rocks glass. Crushed ice to top.
Oh, that looks gross.
This is a mojito, the national drink of Cuba. One of the simplest, most delicious drinks there is. Just rum, lime, sugar, and mint. Hotel Nacional Special. Probably my single favorite rum drink, if I had to pick. This is kind of a pineapple version of a daiquiri, but instead of using sugar to sweeten, we use apricot brandy. If at all possible, use fresh pineapple juice for this.
Ooh.
Last but not least,
Like
this
that.
gets just a bar spoon of cane syrup. This gives just a hint of depth. And 2 ounces of aged rum. And to finish, just a dash of Angostura bitters. A little feather across the top. This is a Hotel Nacional special invented at the Hotel Nacional in Cuba. Highly recommend trying this one if you haven't.
Okay.
Sidecar. Another great, simple 3-ingredient cocktail. Lemon juice, Cointreau, and cognac. For this, we are going to be going with a dry version of the cocktail, the no sugar version. And we will finish this guy off with a lemon twist.
Of course.
Sidecar is an undisputed classic, a wonderful, sharp, citrusy brandy cocktail. French 75.
Ooh.
We'll start off with a ½ ounce each of lemon juice and simple syrup. Technically, a French 75 can be made with gin or cognac, but for today's purposes, we're going with the cognac version. And what makes a French 75 champagne. Quick tip, like to hold onto the metal tree when you're taking this crown off. And last but not least, the lemon twist. This is a French 75, which sounds like a beautiful, elegant name, but is actually named for a military cannon because it feels like you got hit by one when you drink one. Brandy Alexander. You only need 3 things when making a Brandy Alexander: brandy, cream, and creme de cacao. This is a Brandy Alexander. Indulgent, decadent, but surprisingly balanced. Just a nice, creamy, delicious brandy drink. Vieux Carré. Start off with a small amount of our monk-made Benedictine herbal liqueur. And since the Vieux Carré is a kind of Manhattan variation, it wouldn't be complete without sweet vermouth and bitters, rye whiskey, and of course, cognac. Big piece of ice. Finish with a lemon twist or an orange, depending on your bartender. Since I'm here and you're on the other side of the screen and can't say anything, I'm doing lemon. This is a Vieux Carré, another
He
New
puts
Orleans
lemon in
classic.
everything.
Pink Lady.
I'm okay
So, in
with it.
making a pink
Lemon's
lady,
a good
we'll
garnish.
start by cracking an egg into our large shaker, apart from everything else we're going to be mixing. Fresh lemon juice,
Okay.
that nice tart pomegranate grenadine. And as for the
God,
hard
that
stuff, the pink lady
grenadine
gets
looks
a
so
split
liquid.
base of gin and apple brandy, also known as Applejack.
Ooh.
Do our little.
That looks good.
This is a pink lady, all too often forgotten, but a true classic. Delmonico. Angostura bitters. Do ½ ounce each of dry and sweet vermouths. And for the hard stuff, we have a split base of London dry gin and French cognac. All the way up to the top. And the Delmonico cocktail, of course, was invented at Delmonico's, one of the oldest restaurants in the country. Nice swath of lemon. The Delmonico cocktail, New York's finest. Jack Rose. To make a Jack Rose, you just need 3 things. Fresh lime juice, incredible edible grenadine, and our apple brandy. The Jack Rose, FYI, is the perfect drink for Thanksgiving dinner. Simple, refreshing, tart, delicious. Born in New Jersey. Bonus drink! If you add an absinthe rinse to a Jack Rose, that's a Pan American Clipper.
He loves that
Aperol
absinthe.
Spritz. There are a million ways to make an Aperol Spritz, but this is the classic.
I
2
like
ounces of
spritzes.
Aperol. That's nice. 3 ounces of Brut Prosecco. Your fizziest seltzer. And the traditional garnish would be just a wedge of orange, an orange twist. To get
Is that
little
like a
extra
blood
orange
orange?
flavor into the
That's
drink.
really
Then I
red.
throw it out and don't tell anybody I did it. The Aperol Spritz. You can do it a million different ways, but this is the classic. Americano. Traditionally built in the glass that it's drunk from. So we're gonna start this on ice, showcasing our vermouth from Turin, just like with the Negroni and Campari. Topping with soda. And this can be garnished with either an orange wedge or a nice orange twist. This is an Americano. It's the predecessor to the Negroni. Champagne cocktail. Heavily douse this white sugar cube in Angostura bitters. In Casablanca, they drink champagne cocktails constantly. If you were to drink a champagne cocktail every time they drink one in Casablanca, you'd be dead. This is a champagne cocktail, which dates back all the way to the mid-19th century. Bamboo. To make a bamboo, we need 2 kinds of bitters, Angostura and a smaller amount of orange bitters.
Orange bitters.
And for this, we're using equal parts dry vermouth and Pinot Sherry, delicious fortified wine. I don't know who made this up, but if you're having a little bamboo, like a bamboo shooter, you can call that a bambooter. A delicious low alcohol cocktail dating back to late 19th century Japan. Pisco Sour. We use just a split base of the lemon and lime. The reason is simple that in Peru and Chile, the citrus fruit, which they really would just call limon there, has a taste that's kind of right in the middle of the lemons and limes that we get here. Simple serve, pisco, which is technically in the brandy family, but is just really its own thing, and an egg white. Now, traditionally a pisco sour can be topped with either 3 dots of Angostura bitters or grated cinnamon. I like to do both, just because I like the flavor that each one of them lends. This is a pisco sour, the national drink of both Chile and Peru. Both countries claim to have created this drink. I choose not to get involved in that fight. Caipirinha. For a caipirinha, we're going to muddle a fresh lime into the drink. In with our lime wedges, we're going to add our friend the sugar cube that we use for most of our muddling applications, as well as some simple syrup. And before we add the base spirit, we'll muddle. And 2 ounces of cachaça. Cachaça is a fermented sugarcane product. And with the caipirinha, we really don't want to overshake the drink. We just need to give it maybe good 10 shakes or so.
Yeah, shake that drink.
This is a caipirinha, the national drink of Brazil. It uses fresh lime muddled into the drink, which gives it a really nice zesty flavor. What I love about classic cocktails is the rich tradition and history behind each one of these recipes. Every country has their own spirit that they're proud of, so you can really kind of have a round the world experience when you're trying out classic cocktails. So whether you're trying to mix these cocktails at home or if you're just going to a good cocktail bar, I'd recommend ordering one of these classics, maybe try one you haven't had before, and get into the history of it all. Cheers.
I like it.
Yo guys, the Modern Rogue is brought to you by the folks over at Rad Power Bikes.
I'm not gonna watch Modern Rogue. I don't care about ordering whiskey. We're gonna look at how to make coffee now. And give me just a second to pull up that video. Video unavailable. There. Looks like some decent coffees in there.
Hi, my name is Sum.
And my name is Kalina.
Together, we're a coffee project in New York.
We own several coffee shops in New York City with a roastery, and we teach coffee skills to coffee professional and coffee aficionados alike. Today
I think
we're
it's funny,
in
she had
our
like 5
Specialty
names
Coffee
to
Association
pick from and she'd pick
previously on
cum.
campus, and we will be making every espresso.
Well, almost every espresso-based drink. We're definitely going to be making all the classics, some more fun drinks, but definitely by the end of this, you will be able to walk comfortably into a coffee shop and identify most of the drinks on the menu.
Jeez, how many coffee makers they got?
We have two different types of espresso machine in here. This is an automatic espresso machine, and this is a manual espresso machine.
An
Interesting.
automated
I don't think
espresso
I've seen a
machine
manual
has
one
a
before.
steam wand that's built in. You use the steam wand to froth milk, and you'll be able to make drinks such as cappuccinos and lattes. And the portafilter is a part of this machine. In the portafilter, you'll be able to see a basket with very, very fine holes, and we use a temper to create a compact coffee bed and extract espresso.
Interesting.
We have two kinds of scales here for consistency. First, we have to measure how much espresso that we're putting into the portafilter. Secondly, we'll need the scale to measure how much water that goes through the portafilter and yield as espresso in the final cup.
We have two different type of
I
grinders,
don't get why
a
they need to
manual
weigh the
hand
water.
grinder and an
Water
automated
doesn't
grinder.
change weight.
So this is a nut box. All the coffee grinds that is stuck in your portafilter is really compact together. You need something to hit on, therefore your puck falls off. So you also need
Nut
espresso
box,
beans.
I like
It's
it.
roasted slightly longer than usual. The beans that we use today, it is of a medium roast, but remember, you can pick any beans that you like and make it into an espresso because espresso is a brewing method and not just the beans.
Espresso, manual. So espresso, by definition, is actually a brewing method that uses pressure to push water through a compact coffee bed. You actually don't need a really expensive espresso machine in order to achieve that result.
We're gonna use a hand grinder for this manual espresso machine. Awesome. They should feel somewhat like sand powder.
The Specialty Coffee Association, SCA, would actually ask for you to brew an espresso using a 1 to 1.5 to 1 to 2.5 coffee to water ratio.
I'll be using 17 grams of espresso. So the funnel above it is half full. Even it out by just shaking it around. Tempted. So now I have fully prepared the puck. We're gonna start extraction. Place the puck right here.
Okay.
This is an anti-water flow funnel, which I'm gonna attach it on the top.
The whole purpose is to build a chamber for us to create that pressurized water going through the compressed coffee bed.
I preheat my kettle water ahead of time, and this is actually at 200 Fahrenheit. Rough measurement, there's
Never
a
really
tiny line in
understood
there
what
where I
those
can actually
machines were
put it in.
for. I just
So
figured they were for
somewhat at the
brewing,
line.
not a pressure.
Attach
brew.
this little handle here into it. Start. Push. I'm actually yielding this at 30 gram with the time about 32 seconds.
Different pressure will actually give you a different sort of taste profile. For a
Interesting.
standard espresso shot, usually you get about 9 bars.
I I'm currently using my whole body weight to press, and look, it has a really
9
nice
bars. That's 9
textured
times the
crema,
atmospheric
so
pressure.
thinner, clearer line. That's what we call the crema. Crema essentially is all the coffee oil and gas that was built up from the pressure of extraction. And at the bottom of it, that is where the coffee is. Instead of just drinking
There's a way to
powdered
get
milk
the
with
crema without the
some people
pressure.
shake it,
I wish you would have
or I
noted
like
that
it
there.
with a spoon, give it a stir, slurp. Delicious. You get to taste a lot more aroma, fragrance, and also the flavor of the espresso if you do the slurping.
An espresso shot should
It's a
always be
slurp
balanced.
your
You should have a
espresso.
build out of
Definitely a
acidity,
Chinese
and then it should
method.
be balanced out with
They
sweetness,
like to slurp their soup
nuttiness,
too,
and
the
some
same
chocolate milk
method.
at the end.
It's actually considered rude if
Espresso
you don't
machine. A lot
slurp
of,
your soup or...
busy people who
Yeah.
in the morning, they just want a very consistent shot of espresso. They will just program in a way that's a single button, that's a double button.
First of all, you want to make sure you have your portafilter. We already pre-dosed it, so there you go. We're doing a double shot. It's pre-weighed at about 14 grams of coffee. You want to turn either clockwise, counterclockwise, whichever is easier for you, but make sure you don't do this. I just want to make
You got a
sure
unique
that
scar
they're
on her
distributed
hand.
nicely and evenly. Clean the sides of the
Looks like
portafilter.
she was missing
Comes
part
with
of
a
her
little
hand
temper.
at one point.
Hold the temper like you would hold a doorknob and just go straight down. You want to be able to create a even, flat coffee bed. Usually, we do a test. It shouldn't fall out. Lock it
Cool.
in. It's usually a up and a twist
That way you
motion.
don't have any loose grinds
Once you have the
going in.
portafilter lock in, put your cup in and make sure we tear our scale. And there you go. Your espresso will be ready in less than 30 seconds.
And that looks good.
And voila.
You
Look
can
at the
see
crema
that
around
it has
that.
a lot more crema compared to what I did. I
Yeah, it
probably have
does.
pressed the
was
level
just
a little
saying
bit
that.
lesser pressure compared to this machine over here. You always want to take a spoon, stir them all together.
If you're getting a light roast coffee or a medium roast coffee, you might get a slightly thinner layer of crema, and that's totally normal.
And sip.
What's the point of the espresso then, you know?
Doppio. There are different ways
Tasty.
to pull an espresso shot to yield a different flavor profile. And we're gonna start right now with pulling a doppio, which means
A
double
doppio.
in Italian. This is usually what you'll get in a coffee shop when you order any espresso-based drinks. You're probably getting something in between 30 to 40 grams of coffee.
When you order an espresso and coffee project just by saying, hey, can I get an espresso? It will be default double espresso. We're gonna pull a double espresso by grinding the coffee, pre-dose at 14 gram, an even temp. And my coffee automatically stops at 43 grams. Beautiful crema, beautiful cascade.
Because of the sheer volume of a double shot, it is definitely double the amount of caffeine.
Lungo.
A lungo is a prolonged extraction. We're yielding a bigger cup of espresso, and for people who usually order a lungo, they usually would like to taste a little bit more of the roast profile compared to just
I think
like
they
the bean
want to be
profile.
able to
You
woke
get
up
a
too.
lot more of the sugar browning flavor, like chocolate, caramel, or hazelnut. These are the taste notes that comes from extraction in a later cycle of the shot. We're still gonna use the dose of a double espresso.
Even distribution, 90 degree. We actually programmed the single shot to be a lungo shot. So now we're actually pulling almost double the amount of volume that came out in the double shot.
For a double espresso, we are extracting between a 20 seconds to a 30-second shot. With the lungo, it is prolonged to close to about 40 seconds.
At the end of the day, when you are dialing in an espresso shot,
Damn,
it's
40
all governed by
seconds just to
taste.
get it
When we're
through there.
extracting espresso for a longer period of time, whatever we're yielding is actually the roast profile a little bit more. What you get from the sugar browning process during extraction. So you get a little bit more of the chocolate, the caramel, the hazelnut, lower acidity, lighter body. It's meant to be like a sipper instead of like what we all used to espresso being like in a shot.
Ristretto. So ristretto
So it's supposed
is
to be
essentially
tasty,
an
in other
espresso
words,
shot
is
that
what
you're
they're saying.
pouring with a finer grind size, yielding a smaller cup of espresso. You want to make sure you're using a finer grind size, so we're going to go ahead and adjust that just a teeny bit. Whenever you adjust a grind size, always remember to purge your grinder. You're like, Kalina, that's a waste. Is because you want to be able to make sure that you're using the real grind size, the one that you just changed,
a long
and
way
not
to travel.
the reminiscence of the previous shot.
It could be better used, I
Ristretto
think,
is actually
instead of
cutting
just dumping it
short
out,
the
you
brew
know?
time. Since we're stopping it a lot sooner,
Just
what
use
you're
it in
getting
a
is like
coffee
a
mix
punch of
later
acidity, sweetness, and a really concentrated cup of espresso. Really tiny, really thick. You see the ratio between the crema and also the coffee is almost 1-to-1, and it's a lot heavier in body. This ristretto shot is yield around 20 grams at around 20 seconds.
As much as people believe that it has a very high level of caffeine, a shot of espresso actually has less caffeine compared to a 12-ounce cup of coffee.
I'm
Americano.
not surprised.
Hot water filled up.
The espresso is
And then
mainly
we top
just
it
to
up
add,
with a double
you
shot of
know,
espresso.
So you always fill the water in
that
first
taste
before you
in
put
there.
the shot in there. And that's because if you're doing it the other way around, you basically dissipate the layer of crema. And
So
you
if it's the
defeat
same
purpose of an
price to
Americano.
add an espresso shot, just
Hot water.
click and buy another cup of
You
coffee.
are totally in control of how much water you want in your cup of Americano.
Tamp down.
So
By
once you
hot
get
and
your
a
double
cold.
espresso shot, all you gotta do is
Which
just
between?
pour it right into your cup. And now you can see how the crema stays afloat. You still retain all this quality that you get from an espresso. The boldness, the punch, and then that creaminess, but now it's a bigger drink. Cortado. 2 shots of espresso and then top with equal amount of steamed milk.
A favorite among a lot of baristas because you still get that, you know, punch of espresso in there, but it's sweetened by.
Yeah, I don't like the
steamed
punch
milk.
of the espresso.
Cortado also
They can
comes
leave that
with
out.
another name.
I want the
Sometimes if you go
creaminess.
to a coffee shop and you see the word Giobrata, is the name of this cup.
Right, so we have our double shot of espresso. You want to first
It
let
looks like a
the
whiskey glass.
water that's built up in your steam one out. So you're gonna turn it on just to release most of the water. Once you see steam, you can stop. And when you're frothing, few rule of thumb. It's gonna take a few seconds for it to kick in, but we buried the steam one in there. You always want to anchor your spout on the steam one, so it kind of guides the movement of your steaming. And you also want it to go in at a certain angle. Take a look at how the tip of the steam one is hovering above the milk. You want to make sure
so it
that
kinda
is
spins.
sort of buried in the milk. You want to just slowly slide down, break the surface a little bit, so the steam one is able to push some air into your milk, and that is what's going to essentially create microfoam, that creaminess that you get from a cappuccino or a latte. Once it starts turning hot, you are going to slowly glide back in, incorporate the air that you added in earlier into your milk, and that's what's going to create that silky smooth milk texture. All right, when it's slightly
Surprised they don't
hot,
make it so you can just
you're
set the
gonna
cup,
turn it off.
you know?
Clean your steam one and release.
And that's what
whatever
you
milk
normally
that
see in
is
the
hot
restaurant. They
inside.
won't be holding it the whole time.
Sometimes when you're frothing, you'll get some big bubbles in there. Just hover your hand and tap, and you're gonna get silky smooth milk. Something that looks like shiny paint. It sort of lingers on the side of the wall. You are going to fill.
So
Ooh.
this is the Cortado, 2 parts of espresso, which is a double shot, and also equal parts of milk to
That
fill
looks
up
tasty.
the glass.
At Coffee Project, most of our baristas will often end a cup of espresso-based drink with latte art. It's still gonna taste good regardless of whether you can pour an art or not, but your eyes eats first.
It's
Your
very
eyes eat
chocolatey,
first. I
nutty,
love
but
it.
at the same time it's sweet and it has a lot of stone fruit from the roast profile itself. This is a lot of coffee professionals' favorite drink. Piccolo latte. For Cortado, we're using a double shot of espresso
Piccolo?
as base.
Like
But for
Dragon Ball
Piccolo
Z?
latte, we're actually using a ristretto shot. Ristretto shot It's gonna give you a lot more sweetness and a little bit higher in acidity just because it's a little bit cut short and concentrated. So if you want something sweeter and a little bit more higher in acidity, you would go for a piccolo latte.
Oh. I don't know if acidity is really what I look for in a latte. I want creaminess.
So when you're frothing, you don't want that screeching high pitch. This is the sound of the froth. You have probably 1/3 of the beverage itself is espresso, and you will fill up with froth warm milk.
Classic heart.
Piccolo latte is not much found in a lot of coffee shops in your city. If the coffee shop has Australian culture to it, then you probably will be able to find a piccolo latte.
Okay, so it's
Cappuccino.
Australian
2
background.
shots of espresso as a base, followed by a frothier milk on the top. Slightly stronger than a latte because it has slightly less milk and a little more foam in there. So pulling a double
What do they mean
shot
by
of espresso
stronger? Do they mean like
inside.
bitter taste?
We're going to start with the
or...
same procedure, and we're going to just
don't
prolong
know.
this significantly longer compared to a latte.
So I would
Once it
assume
starts
more
getting
froth
warmer,
would mean less
dive that
taste to
steam one
it.
into the milk, incorporating all the air that we added in earlier. So you get a thicker, foamier milk texture compared to a latte.
A lot of times you will see baristas pour half, mix them all a little bit, and then continue to pour. It's gonna give you even creamier cup of espresso and cappuccino. And when I drink a cappuccino, I like to do this.
And
When a latte drinker wants more coffee flavor in their coffee, they will start going down to ordering cappuccino.
flat white.
If I like the flavor of cappuccino, but I find it a little bit too foamy and a little bit too milky, what can I go for? A flat white. It's between the amount of milk of a cortado and a cappuccino. 2 shots of espresso in a 5-ounce cup. It's a smaller drink compared to a cappuccino. Froth, milk.
There is a shorter aeration time, so meaning we're adding slightly less air compared to a cappuccino, fairly similar to the way we would froth a latte. You're trying to create a vortex in your milk.
I kind of want
Your
to
steam
buy a
one,
milk
your
frother
steam
now.
one. With a shorter aeration time,
the first time they clean
you are
the
letting
wand.
less air into your milk, which will create slightly less foam. We're trying our best not to break the crema. So you're gonna start pouring at a higher level, and you're incorporating the milk into the drink.
Don't break the crema, but
And at
pour
the
at a higher
end, you
level.
will
These
just
guys
slightly mark it
contradict
with
themselves a lot.
tiny little heart. It's a texture that is like softer, but there's not a lot of foam on the top. So when you sip it, you're actually getting a stronger first sip of coffee. And that's what a lot of people are looking for when they order a flat white. Macchiato.
2 shots of espresso with 1 ounce of milk into it.
A double shot. And then we will froth our milk. What you do is just taint the espresso with a dollop of milk. A traditional macchiato.
The macchiato will definitely be a lot bolder than all the espresso-based
Yeah, I'm
drink
not a
milk
fan of
that we've made
macchiatos.
so far. It has the strong punch, and so when you take a sip of it, you will get all the crema, espresso flavor, and then the sweetness of the milk will cut through. Latte macchiato. Macchiato is like tainting something. With the traditional macchiato, we're tainting the espresso with milk. And now when we mention latte macchiato, we are tainting the milk with espresso.
We are pulling a double shot.
10 ounces of hot milk. And the goal is to create that layer on the beverage by waiting for the foam to separate a little bit. And then you top it up with your espresso shot. This is the latte macchiato. When this drink is done right, you will have a layer of white foam right above your beverage, and then the color at the bottom is gonna look like coffee.
Breve.
Breve is another form of milk that is made out of half and half. So in a coffee shop, you can actually ask for a breve latte, breve cappuccino, even a breve cortado.
Double shot. Give it a little bit of air, and it should be enough
it's a lot heavier compared to whole milk or skim milk in general. This is a breve cappuccino. It tends to coat your mouth a little bit more, and it leaves a
I
longer
wonder if they ever get that
aftertaste,
like image
almost
looking
like
more like a
drinking ice cream.
penis than a flower.
Red eye. We get this a lot in the morning, especially on Mondays, because a red eye is a full 12 ounce of drip coffee topped with a double shot of espresso.
Too much caffeine.
Too much caffeine,
shot?
she goes.
Just like an Americano, for better experience, you want to have your drip coffee first and then float your espresso right above it. Feel free to add any sort of milk in there as well. It is actually very intense in terms of flavor. Most of the people who order this are like people who work in like financial district, like have to wake up really early in the morning or get off work really late, like production.
Like production.
Mocha.
Like that.
Mocha is actually a latte with chocolate added into the espresso as base. One of the most favorite and the most popular thing to add into espresso to make into a beverage is chocolate. You can add any type of chocolate you like. So what we have here is actually a chocolate ganache.
You will take the shot of espresso and pour it into the chocolate to melt the chocolate first.
And then gently stir it.
Okay,
You
gently
will see the
stirring it.
consistency of your espresso thicken up. The smell of chocolate, sweetness. This is delicious on its own as well. And now, just like a latte, you will pour your hot milk into the mocha sauce and also your espresso. And
that looks tasty.
you can take some chocolate and have it grated on the top of it. Mocha is definitely one of the favorite drinks in a cafe.
My wife would
Espresso
like
Romano.
that.
That's a mixed review for espresso paired with lemon juice. I like the sweetness out of it, and I also like how it's being served with the lemon juice. Will I drink this every day? Maybe not.
So first of all, you're gonna prepare a double shot of espresso.
You will put it into the clear glass. And then you have the 1 ounce of lemon juice that is freshly squeezed.
Wow,
Directly
whole
into
ounce
it.
of lemon juice.
And finally, you need lemon zest. Lemon zest is actually a very commonly found tasting profile for coffee that is from Ethiopia. Super fresh.
Oh.
I can smell the sweetness.
You know what's funny? I've actually had Ethiopian coffee, and it's really strong, but it's actually pretty
Dirty
tasty.
chai.
Chai tea is a tea that is brewed together with a lot of spices and black tea. But today, we're tainting the chai latte with the double espresso.
We are going to pull a double
I actually
shot.
tried it in
We
college.
will put this
It's a
chai
little
concentrate
culture deal.
into the
My
milk to froth together.
The flavor
My buddy
is
got me to go
being
to.
basically distributed throughout the whole drink a lot better. It smells really good when you're frothing it. And to complete it, you just combine both of them together. There you go.
You get a little kick from the espresso, not as much, because the chai itself with the spices is kind of, I wouldn't say overpowering, but they are almost the same level as espresso. It's gonna be a little bit more balanced, like a hearty tea, but with a kick from the caffeine.
I love
Syrup
chai
latte.
stuff.
Coffee Project does homemade syrup and also bottled syrup. This Earl Grey syrup is actually homemade.
1 part water, 1 part sugar. That is basically a simple syrup. Steep the tea bags in together with the water, let it sit for a prolonged period of time, do it for like 3-4 hours, and then just add the sugar in, melt everything, and there you go.
All you gotta do is just place the syrup at the bottom of your cup. It's about 1 ounce of the syrup.
And complete the whole drink just like you would do a latte. A double shot of espresso into the cup, right into the syrup. Froth the milk, and then complete the drink.
And here we have the Earl Grey syrup latte. So the bergamot from the Earl Grey just sips through. Mixed really nicely with the
I didn't know Earl
espresso, which is
Grey
a little
had
bit more stone
bergamot in
fruit,
it.
chocolate forward. Sweet enough, but not too sweet. And the texture is just right.
So coffee has always been an ingredient
Yeah.
that's used in cocktails.
It's like it's helping to elevate the flavor of the coffee.
Let's get
at
into the
same
good
time that
stuff.
you enjoy the booziness. Espresso martini. An espresso martini is essentially a mix of vodka, coffee liquor, and also espresso with your choice of syrup and shaken over ice, served on a martini glass. It's not too straightforward alcoholic, and you
This
still
is
get
how
to
I used
enjoy
to-
all the coffee flavor. We always want to put in all the ingredients that is not alcohol first. Here is the cinnamon syrup, 0.5 ounce of it into your shaker. Now we're gonna add equal amount of espresso. It's almost 1 full shot. And coffee liquor generally is already sweet, brings a little bit more of the coffee flavor out. 0.5 ounce of it. And finally, the vodka, a full shot, 1 ounce. When we pull our espresso, we would like to have it cooled down a little bit. Make sure you're only putting in the ice cube. And right away, you're gonna shake. Give it a really vigorously shake.
These guys
Strain
are
it.
taking coffee
It's
to
gonna
a
be
whole
helpful.
nother level
All
here.
you want is this creamy espresso martini that comes all the way out. So it looks like crema. What we like is a little touch of chocolate. Staying with the
Ooh.
classic, let's float 3 espresso beans on top of it. And here
Damn, that looks
this is the
tasty.
best I've made since yesterday.
Best I've made since
Corretto.
yesterday.
Corretto is a really easy dessert coffee liquor to make. Find your favorite brandy and then serve it over
That doesn't look like
double
brandy.
espresso. After I pull the espresso, I'm gonna pour it into my cup. So for brandy today, we chose this grappa. It has a really nice almond flavor to it, and I think it's gonna pair really well with the double espresso that we have in here. You can just drop it however much you want in there and sip your espresso. I think this is more of an after dinner drink, but I think it's just really nice to make it home. As long as you have a double espresso and a brandy of your choice, you can pretty much serve Corretto anywhere. Beer Presso. We make up this name. Beer is my second favorite drink after coffee. For this drink, I realized that lager works a little better, but with our espresso that we're using today, I have picked a shandy because it has a little bit more
Oh.
refreshing aftertaste to it, a little lemony, so it's a
Interesting.
great summer drink. I pick a highball.
Not a big fan of
That's
shandies.
because I like to see how it falls. And you want to wait a little bit before you pour your espresso into your shandy or your beer of choice. If not, it's just going to explode. Drop espresso onto it, however much you like. If you have a long spoon, just pop it in, mix it a little bit. It kind of reminds me of the hot espresso romano that we made earlier with the lemon twist onto it, but this is like a little bit more elevated, lighter, and it's easier to drink because it's more refreshing. Paloma. We give the
Ooh,
original
Paloma.
Paloma a little bit elevated experience. We're always gonna start with
I see this in the bars a
non-alcohol
lot.
lime juice, lemon syrup, which is also 3/4, 1 ounce of grapefruit juice, followed by 1 ounce of espresso. It's always better to let the espresso sit for a little bit to cool down,
And also
so it doesn't
incorporate
melt
with
your
the
ice.
rest of the
And last but not least,
lemon
2
lime
ounces
combo.
of tequila. Before we put the ice into the shaker, we want to be able to create the base of the Paloma, tonic water. We love to use tonic water as a base for most of the drinks that we make. Now is the ice. Pop it. And we're gonna
Smack.
shake it. The ratio, it's almost like 3/4 of tonic. And then
I got a feeling this
remaining
chick
is gonna
like
be
doesn't want
the
to
Paloma
be a
shake.
barista. She wants to be like an
Garnish it
actual like
with
cocktail
a lemon
like
zest. And that's
master
our
here.
take on a Paloma with espresso.
Yeah.
On its own, it's really like super refreshing.
Her lemon
so with the
zest
espresso
looks so
on it,
much better,
It
or her
kinda
lemon
just mellow down the acidity in the drink.
peel,
At the same time,
I should
it gives you
say.
a little bit more of the nuttiness.
Espresso is a really good base to use in dessert drinks. It's able to withstand anything that you add into it, and you'll be able to still taste coffee. Frappe. It's a Greek drink that people drink a lot during summer. You need ice. For the base of the frappe, you'll be using milk or a non-dairy milk, your choice. And of course, our most important ingredient, espresso. Blend away. I like where it is sort of liquidy, but you can still get tiny little pieces of ice in there. And you just pour everything out. It's a fairly easy drink to make at home. You can be a little fancy and top it with whipped cream. And
Since when is topping with
garnish
whipped
it
cream
with
fancy?
cocoa powder.
Okay, that's a little bit
So this is a
fancier.
frappe. When your friend comes over to your home during summer, very easy, very fancy drink to make.
Affogato.
Okay,
You see
this
avocado
I
in a
want.
lot of dessert menus in Italian restaurants. Very straightforward.
Got ice cream.
topped with espresso.
I always choose vanilla ice cream with affogato simply because it enhances the flavor profile of the espresso the most.
Kind of like a plain canvas. It'll take
Kinda do
on
like a vanilla
any
bean
other
one.
flavor. Very easy. You just pour espresso directly over the ice cream. Makes
Oh,
for a visually stunning dessert. It's strong, you still get that, coffee espresso flavor in it. By the same time, you get the
I hope they'd
sweetness
use
and
like a
creaminess of
vanilla
the ice
bean
cream.
coffee
Dig
instead
in.
of just regular vanilla.
Delicious, it's really good. You see the layering of the espresso and the ice cream, and as it melts, the color sort of changes. It's really beautiful, and it's really, really easy to make at home. So around the world, people pull different espresso shots using different machines and gadgets. And today we'll be showcasing just a couple of those. Vienna coffee.
So for Vienna coffee, we're also going to be using double espresso shot. We add a little bit of a chocolate powder at the bottom of our cup to add the additional layer of flavor into our Vienna coffee. Pull a double espresso, pour it right into the chocolate, and then you will mix it to create that really thick texture.
And while she is melting the chocolate, we will be frothing some milk.
This
So
looks
to complete
tasty.
the drink, you just basically top it up.
And you can use cream, you can use milk. The goal is to create that really heavy texture and frothy, and you see them separate and create a layer of foam on top of it. And top it up with this whipped cream. Since we're using chocolate at the bottom of the cup, I think it's also a really nice touch to add a little bit of chocolate on top of it. It's relatively similar to the mocha beverage that we made earlier. In mocha, we're still having more espresso forward. This is entirely trying to make it as chocolate as possible, really creamy, and still get a little bit of that espresso flavor to it.
Unique cup.
Cafe Freddo. The Freddo is mainly drank in Greece and Southern Europe.
You need to pull a double
I feel like
espresso.
I've heard of this one.
You need ice and you need some sugar, and you can sweeten your espresso as you like. Here I have close to 1 tablespoon. You don't stir it, you will put it into your shaker with a lot of ice cube. Shake it like a cocktail. After shaking, you will have this nice chilled espresso. You still get a little bit of that heavy body, long-lasting aftertaste. I've seen some people actually put them into a glass of cold milk.
I don't think I'd
Turkish
care for
coffee.
that one as much.
The main device that is used is an e-brick or a chess V.
We start with finely grind 7 grams of coffee into the e-brick. Unlike brewing like
I've seen
regular
this one.
espresso, there's no pressure.
I
We're
think they
using
usually
70
do it
grams
over
of room
coals
temperature
with
water.
an e-brick.
I'm gonna turn this on to high.
Ah, they're using a
And as
stove.
soon as I move this e-brick to the fire, I'm gonna start my timer. And in about 2 minutes or so, this will be ready. You will see that it is slowly simmering. And once you get a little bit of foam on the side, turn your fire lower. And all this could happen within like a minute to a minute and a half. It's happening now. And I am at 30 seconds. So now I'm gonna like lower down my fire while maintaining my distance.
That's pretty
You
cool
will
with
see
propane
there's a layer
still.
of crema that is built
I use
up
one like that for
on
camping.
top of it, and we really don't want to lose it. The biggest challenge of brewing e-brick this way is actually over-extraction of the coffee, which makes your coffee really bitter. And we're gonna
I
pour it
bet.
directly into the cup. See that really, really nice layer of crema above it? That's the goal. There's no filtration method, which is why you grind your espresso really, really fine, hoping that after you pour it and you wait it for it to settle down, all the grinds is going to be at the bottom of the cup. So when you drink it, it will just maintain at the bottom of it. It has all the characteristic of an espresso beverage: bold, strong, thick crema right above it, really, really heavy body. So compared to a regular cup of espresso, I think they are relatively similar. There's always an espresso-based beverage for everyone.
Just remember that espresso is a type of brewing method. You can just go ahead and look for a coffee bean that fits your favorite profile and make a cup of espresso for yourself.
Alright, I don't know what this is, but we're gonna actually watch the bartending
Hey,
gadgets.
Puddinhead. I'm
Actually-
Dan, and I've been designing kitchen gadgets for 40 years.
We will actually take a pause and we'll come back to
I'm Ann
this.
Saxelby, founder and co-owner of Saxelby Cheesemongers,
If,
and I'm
if
here
this
today to
lady
show you
from
how
Cheesemongers has to how to cut every cheese. That's interesting. This is a very interesting channel. I really like it.
Hey, Puddinhead.
Hey, Puddinhead. Alright. Well, all you Puddinheads out there, we're going to take a break. I'm gonna probably get something to eat. I'm kind of hungry, so yeah. We'll catch you guys later. I'll be back later tonight, and we'll continue on with this guy's crazy bar gadget antics. So if you guys are watching and haven't followed yet and want to get a notification when I pop back on, feel free to drop a follow. Feel free to check out the merch store. I guess I don't have that posted, but just hit !merch if you guys want to see that. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.